All right, Brent Venables made some interesting comments today in his media availability today around redshirting Jackson Arnold and what this quarterback position could look like for Oklahoma. I wanted to weigh in here because we've seen Arnold start 4 games. You've seen Hawkins in 2.5 games. He's started 2 of them. He's going to be starting 3 this week. Are we potentially going to be making a change at quarterback? We're talking about it today. Before we do that, as always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and hit the subscribe button and join the discussion below. I'm sure you guys will on this one because Brent Venables talked about Jackson Arnold today, and a lot of the conversation was centered around redshirting Arnold, things like that. When you read into what Brent Venables said, we're going to get to the quotes here in a second. And if you guys go back to the press availability on the Oklahoma Sooners YouTube channel and you watch what Brent Venables said and how he talks about Arnold, you would believe that maybe he wants to give Arnold another shot. Like, just listen to the way he talks about him. And you'll see what I'm saying. But today in the press availability, he talked about, have they discussed about redshirting Jackson Arnold? And if you guys are not following George Stoya, James Jackson, or Eric Bailey on social media, you got to go give those guys a follow, because if you guys don't want to watch the full press availability, they actually go through, get the quotes out, and tweet those quotes out. So you can kind of just get a like a Spark Notes or a Cliff Notes version of that press availability and see what Brent Venables is talking about. But again, as I said earlier, you don't get kind of like the infection in Brent Venables' tone, right? So George Stoya tweeted out about the discussion around redshirting Jackson Arnold. And Brent Venables said he wants to be the starting quarterback at the University of Oklahoma. I feel like it's only right to give Mike the opportunity, a chance to be the guy and have a body of work. Eric Bailey also tweeted out a quote that said, "It's been discussed between us. What was told to Jackson, if we put you in, it's because we need you to win. We're sensitive to everything. He wants to be the starting quarterback at Oklahoma." And I've noticed something in these 2 quotes. Brent Venables says 2 times about how Jackson Arnold wants to be the starting quarterback at Oklahoma. And one of the things that you've noticed with Jackson Arnold on the sidelines is he is over there with Kevin Johns and Michael Hawkins at the iPad, watching and learning and listening, trying to put in the work. And Brent Venables talked about it today in the press conference, talking about how Jackson Arnold is looking better in practice. He's looking good, right? Like, maybe benching Arnold is what Jackson Arnold needed to get back on the right track. And here's what I mean by this. In 2020, Lincoln Riley benched Spencer Rattler after he was playing like absolute dog crap against Texas for Tanner Mordecai. Came in a quarter later, finished the game out, and for the rest of the season, a lot of people were really high on Spencer Rattler and his capabilities going into the 2021 season. And I'm not saying Spencer Rattler and Jackson Arnold are the same quarterback, but the situation in benching a quarterback, letting them kind of calm down, recollect themselves, maybe that's all he needed. And I am not saying Brent Venables did not make the right decision. This coaching staff made the right decision to pull Arnold out of the Tennessee game, to put Hawkins in, and then let Hawkins start. Like, he had the hot hand going into Auburn. However, I think the win against Auburn and the way that the defense won you that game is still hiding a lot of the offensive deficiencies, which we saw going into Texas. And I also want to start by making this point before we really start talking about, well, who should be the starter for the rest of the season for Oklahoma and should there be a quarterback change. I want you guys to understand this one point before we get into it. This offense was built for Jackson Arnold. The wide receivers that, quite frankly, are out, some of them that have been recruited, those are the guys that they wanted for Arnold. The offensive line that they built is for Arnold. That's what I need you to understand. And if you get a Nick Anderson back and a Jalil Farouk back by Ole Miss, and let's say a Deion Burks comes back this week because Brent Venables said that Deion Burks is trying to defy all odds and make a comeback this week, right? So if he's at 80%, does Brent Venables give him a little bit of time on the field, get him some run, right? I think all that remains to be seen. But if those three guys are able to come back within the next two games, is Michael Hawkins the better option at quarterback for you? And here is the reason why I'm asking you this question, and I really want you to put away your disdain for the Arnold turnovers that were made. Those were the past. Maybe Jackson Arnold comes in and looks completely different. We don't know because we haven't seen him. We've seen Michael Hawkins not make, I think, the reads he's supposed to. And this is the biggest difference between Hawkins and Arnold that I've been able to see. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. But it feels like Hawkins is a one-read quarterback. Or at least that's what he is right now. And a lot of this could be development. And this is something that I argued for Jackson Arnold as well. There's no development there. These quarterbacks are not being developed the way they should, which is the reason why you're missing on a 5-star quarterback who was a National Gatorade Player of the Year. You don't have anybody there to develop him. And it's starting to show with Hawkins too. Because Hawkins, all against Texas, was reading one time and then trying to run the ball. But the problem is the defense is scheming a spy on Hawkins every single time, and he wasn't able to get around it. And he wasn't able to take advantage of Texas using a spy. And like I said, I think the win against Auburn kind of hid some of these deficiencies. And I'm not saying Hawkins isn't the best option. But to not revisit this topic of conversation, especially now that both quarterbacks have played 4 games. So you need to make a decision. Who is going to be your starter for the rest of the season? Because one of these guys needs to get redshirted if they're not going to have a chance to start for the rest of the season. That's what you need to do. You don't want to lose eligibility on these quarterbacks because you wanted to play your quarterback this week, your quarterback next week. Right? And here's my case for Arnold being the starting quarterback. The offense scored more points in at least 2 of the games that Arnold played in than against Auburn or Texas. Now, given Oklahoma played the number 1 defense last week in Texas. It hurts me to say that. But Jackson Arnold has played the number 18th and the number 27th hardest total defense. Auburn was 47 on that list. So you could make and by the way, Tennessee was number 2, and Hawkins has played in Tennessee. I think they both played a half, right? So they both played the number 2 defense. And Hawkins played better in the Tennessee game than Jackson Arnold did. Again, inexcusable for those turnovers. That change had to be made. But you can make an argument Jackson Arnold has played better this whole season than Hawkins. It feels like Hawkins is afraid to make some of these throws because he doesn't want to potentially turn the ball over. But remember, some of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history turn the ball over sometimes. Patrick Mahomes throws lots of interceptions, but he's a great quarterback, right? He's won 3 Super Bowls. Now, not comparing either of these guys to Patrick Mahomes, but you're catching my point, right? Sometimes throwing the ball, throwing an interception, that just means you're trying to make a play. And I think that's all we're asking for you at this point. Because against Texas, I saw 1, 2, 3 open wide receivers that could have went for touchdowns that Michael Hawkins missed because he didn't make multiple reads and he tucked and ran the ball. Maybe you do need a 2-quarterback system. If you do that, you lose the option for a red shirt, right? One of these guys is losing a year of eligibility, where surely one of them is probably going to transfer at the end of the season once they find out they're not going to be a starter. Oklahoma is in a situation right now where your offense isn't good, but does one of these guys give you a better chance to win over the other? It sounds like Brent Venables is trying to give Hawkins the same time that Arnold got to figure it out. But what do you do if Hawkins doesn't look good against South Carolina and OU loses that game? Because now you're 4-3 and you're staring down the barrel of a 5-7 season. Not even making a bowl game. This is going to be a hard decision for Brent Venables and the staff. Mind you, Brent Venables still has to make a decision on whether or not he's going to retain the offensive staff by the end of the season. This will be what defines Brent Venables in his career at Oklahoma. How he handles the offense, how he handles his quarterback situation. And quite frankly, when you look at the grades, you look at the stats, Arnold might be your best option. So I wanted to hear from you guys. Join the discussion. Jump down in the comments below. Give me your thoughts. And as always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and you hit that subscribe button.